Speak to any salesman about the art of selling and he'll tell you that timing is everything. Push a customer to buy too early and you'll drive him away. Wait too long and the moment will have passed. It's a careful balancing act and it takes years of practice to master. We face a similar dilemma as web professionals. Ask somebody to complete a call to action before they're ready and you risk irritating them. Wait too long and they leave without taking the next step. Unfortunately, I think that we have a bias towards asking people too early and we can risk driving them away as a result. Take for example those annoying pop-ups you seem to get in pretty much every iPhone app these days. Did you like our app? Then rate it in the App Store. They inevitably interrupt whatever it is you're trying to do on the app and so do nothing but alienate. Ask a user to subscribe to a newsletter or follow you on a social network and you can create similar feelings on a website. Users rarely come to a website wanting to follow you on LinkedIn or subscribe to your newsletter. So why do we metaphorically shout these requests at them the moment they arrive on our sites? The reason is that we feel in such a rush to make these asks because it's constantly drilled into us how little time users spend on our sites. For example, the BBC news story famously announced internet users make up their minds about the quality of a website in the blink of an eye. This may be true, but that doesn't mean we need to scream at them the minute they arrive. You do have time. Just look at your analytics. The chances are that users stay on your site at least a minute or two. They also might not complete a call to action on their very first visit anyway, and you know what? That's okay. Instead of expending all your energy shouting at them at the first opportunity, maybe put that effort into giving them some good reasons to come back to your site. Like a good salesman, we need to pick the moment that we ask users to do something. iPhone app developers take a leaf out of Feedly's book, who asked me to rate their app when I'm between tasks rather than in the middle of it. Alternatively, add a little banner to the bottom of the screen, anything other than those annoying pop-up ads that stop me dead in the middle of a task. The same goes for websites. If you want somebody to follow you on Twitter, don't ask them before they've signed up for your web app. Wait until they've registered. As for newsletter sign-ups, maybe it's a good idea to give your users time to look at your content and decide whether it's interesting or not before mentioning your newsletter. You might even want to only show them the call to action to sign up for your newsletter if they're a returning visitor. Knowing when to keep your mouth shut is important when it comes to your primary call to action, but it's even more crucial when it comes to your secondary action. Sure, a premature ask of your call to action can be annoying to a user, but if it's a secondary call to action and it's distracting people from completing your main call to action, then that can be damaging to your business. Take for example e-commerce sites. More than once I've been trying to make a purchase on an e-commerce site only to be prevented from doing so by a pop-up window asking me to subscribe to their email offers. Now think about it for a minute. Think how ridiculous that is. I'm trying to buy something on their site and they're interrupting me to get me to sign up for a newsletter so they can persuade me to buy something on their site. It makes no sense. Now I know what you're thinking. Surely waiting to ask will cause a decline in the number of completed calls to action, but that's not necessarily the case. Like most charity websites, the Norwegian Cancer Society used to focus their site around the goal of raising donations, despite the fact that the majority of users coming to the site didn't come for that reason. They weren't interested in donating, they were interested in learning more about the symptoms and treatment of cancer. That was much more important than supporting the organisation financially. Eventually, the charity decided to take a really brave step. They focused on the needs of users rather than their organisational objectives. They decided to raise the profile of the cancer information at the price of reducing the prominence of donations and fundraising. Instead, they chose to wait until the user had found the information they needed before asking them to donate. Instead of seeing a decline in donations, they actually saw a 70% increase in one-off donations and an 88% increase in ongoing monthly giving. By waiting until their audience had found the information they were looking for, they found that the audience was much more receptive to supporting the charity. The time was right. So before you next plaster your website with calls to action, ask yourself whether you're asking at the right time. It might be that if you just wait a while, if you wait for the right moment, you might actually be able to increase conversion rates. So think before you add a call to action.